Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of All in All with Alex. I'm your host, of course, Alex. Today, we have a very special guest in the building, Ann Russo. How you doing today?
Hey Alex, I'm great. How about yourself?
I can't complain at all. Can't complain at all. So, can you give the people a brief background about yourself, and then we'll dive into the questions?
Sure. So I am a mental health provider, and I founded a practice called AMR Therapy that serves the queer community, the BIPOC community, and other communities that have felt underserved in therapy. We're 15 little boutique group of diverse therapists. And I'm also someone who does trainings, and I'm currently writing a book on religious trauma, all the good mental health stuff and advocacy stuff.
Okay, good, good. That's what we like to see because mental health is the most important thing in the world, and it's not taught.
Yes, 100%.
So, all right, let's dive into it. So, what inspired you to become a mental health professional and focus on sex, positivity, and queer issues?
Well, I grew up in a queer household in the 80s and the 90s. So I have firsthand experience of the difficulty of coming out, prejudice in society, and people just simply not understanding. So I always was a fighter for the LGBTQ, the queer community, all the way from high school. And what led me into sex positivity is just the general view of sex in our society. And oftentimes, people don't feel like they have a voice when it comes to their own sexuality or their sexual experiences. I find this to be especially true with women and female empowerment around sexual choices and consent. And I also just got into mental health because I really, it's kind of a switch, but I really love theology and I love studying religion. And I thought I would do this work through church. But it turned out that after I got my master's in theology, I was really drawn to the mental health aspects of it. So I utilized both my master's in theology and my degree in therapy to come together and help folks that are navigating those intersections.
Okay, okay. Can you share your experience founding one of the first remote therapy practices in 2018?
Sure. So the goal of that practice was to make care more affordable. So this is obviously pre-COVID. There wasn't really online therapy. And I thought, what can I do to lower my costs so I don't have to pass that on to the consumer of therapy, right? And what I figured is if I can do it without a brick and mortar building, that could significantly reduce my costs, which would then significantly reduce the cost of the therapy. So that's the way that a big way that we're able to provide therapy services for a lot less than other folks. Yeah.
So, what challenges did you face in launching your remote therapy practice, and how did you overcome them?
Well, in school, we're not really taught how to build a business when you're learning how to be a therapist. So it's like you have all these tools on how to be a therapist, but how do you now practice in the business? How do you build a business? So I had to basically teach myself how to build a business, and that took some time and hiring and HR, and I really did all of this on my own. And then I was lucky enough to have people in my life that were really cool from like grad school and that were like willing to like jump on board and work with me and be a therapist in the practice and be with me as I was like learning things. So I feel like the biggest challenge is just how the heck do you create a small business? When you're not really given those tools in school. So it's navigating being a therapist, figuring out how to run a business, and then running the business.
Right, right. So, what do you feel are the biggest barriers to mental health care for marginalized communities today?
I think that there's a lot of stigma around mental health care about what mental health care actually means. So I think that and I see this breaking down a lot over the past 5 years or so. One of the most challenging things is that if you're receiving mental health care, you must have some kind of mental illness, or there must be something wrong with you, or that you're quote crazy, like so it's there's the stigma of what it means. And the barrier has been that to be categorized as someone who's mentally ill, or what it means to be mentally ill, or what it means to be crazy or have a mental health problem, right? And I think now, luckily, we're seeing that therapy is the same as if you go to the doctor if you have, you know, a flu or something. It's not something that's just for people that are struggling with a mental health condition, but it can be someone who's experiencing a challenge in life, or has had a loss, or is going through, you know, a difficult time, and they need someone to talk to and help process through those experiences and those emotions. So therapy can mean a lot of different things depending on the client. And I think that that's what the barrier is just a kind of a narrow scope, and not truly understanding or having access to the therapy itself.
So, do you have a impactful story that you can share from your work with LGBTQ plus advocacy organizations like PFLAG?
Sure. So let's see. I was lucky enough in grad school to work with PFLAG. We had a project where we chose an organization that we wanted to work with in order to bring it into the schools. And I chose PFLAG, and they had something called the Speakers Bureau. And I became part of the Speakers Bureau. And what that was is you go into different schools, classes, mainly colleges, different organizations, government officials, and just share your story about what it means to grow up and be part of that community. So it's really about community and relationship building. And I feel like any opportunity we have to build relationships and build community and understand people that are different from us, I find that to be very inspiring and inspirational work.
I agree. I mean, anytime you can do work like that and help people that's in need is definitely very important and very needed. I mean, you'll see the change in people's life instantly almost.
Absolutely.
So, what advice do you have for mental health professionals looking to better support queer clients?
Get the training, really, because working in different communities, there are nuances and there are differences in communities and cultures. And we may assume that we may understand something that we don't even know that we don't, because it's not even on our radar. So it's always important to receive consulting, support, training from members or therapists that are members of that community, because we don't want to accidentally cause harm to our clients. And I would say that about any community, honestly.
So, how would you say that allies can contribute meaningfully to mental health advocacy for marginalized communities?
Advocates and allies can do things as simple as calling out incorrect information that they might be hearing in their workplace or in their homes or among their friends. Stretch yourself and go into communities that are welcoming to you, obviously, and learn about people that are different from yourselves. It's not so much that you have to do enormous gestures, right? It's just making yourself visible as a safe person or a safe space. And that can mean lots of different things for different communities. So work with those communities to understand them better, and listen to them, because they are the experts on themselves.
Okay. So let's switch to your courses for a minute. What inspired you to create continuing education courses for mental health providers?
I saw a lack in training around sex positivity, around queerness, on religious and queer intersection. So, around non monogamy, therapists are just not trained in these things. And there are more and more clients that are wanting to explore some of these areas. So, I decided it was time to create some courses. So that's what I've been doing. I've been creating courses that are they're continuing education courses, and they are approved by ACE and ASWB for therapists to take. We're required to take courses every year in order to keep our license up to date. So these courses meet those requirements and have been approved by these organizations.
Okay. How do your courses address the intersection of sexual health and religious trauma?
Well, I have a course that will specifically talks about queerness and the intersectionality of Christianity. How it does that is we break down some scripture, we talk about the different impact on different communities, on the queer community, we talk about mental health, and we talk about what it means to bridge the gap between religion and sexuality. Because unfortunately, those two things have appeared to be at odds. And one of my goals is to help queer folks or LGBTQ folks that are believers in a specific religion feel welcome and a part of that. They don't have to give up their faith because of their sexual orientation.
Cool. I like that because you have many people in the world who will make people feel like they couldn't be this religion because of their beliefs or because of what their sexual preference is. So, you doing that, I don't think I've ever heard anybody be able to work with people to make them understand they can still be whatever religion they want to be, no matter their sexual preference.
Yeah, because when you're dealing with a sexual orientation, you're who you are. Like, it's not something that you can just change, because if you're born into a very religious community who is anti-LGBTQ or believe that you're going to go to hell, right? Or something equivalent to that, no one goes into that saying, I want to be a gay person, right? Like, initially you fight very hard not to be that. So when you're struggling with your own sexual orientation, and even coming to terms with your own orientation, and then to have your religious community or your family or your friends then condemn you, you can only imagine what that does to someone's overall mental health and well-being. And then feeling like they can't even be part of the church anymore, and the pain that that causes.
Yeah, I can only imagine. So, what feedback have you received from mental health providers who've taken your courses?
So far, so good. I haven't received anything negative from mental health providers as of yet. Sometimes when I advertise my courses, people that are not mental health providers have a lot to say, because they have a lot of assumptions about what it means for me to be teaching courses like this. So sometimes that feedback can be challenging when you receive negative feedback or uninformed feedback, or people just don't like what you're talking about.
That's how people are. I mean, they see you making a difference and they mad they're not the one making a difference. So they got issues with it, especially if it's not something that goes about whatever they believe in or whatever they decide is what they feel is right.
Exactly. And you know what, too, Alex? This is never about trying to make someone believe the way I believe or think the way I think. Classes and trainings like this are to educate therapists to be able to work with certain populations. It's their choice whether or not they choose to work with these populations or not, or whether or not they choose to take the training. But people in the world are different. We're diverse, and everyone should have the ability to access care that will understand who they are.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Um. So let's switch to your books for a second. Tell us about your upcoming book entitled "Her Own Terms."
So actually, you didn't get the update, I don't think, but actually, I'm under contract right now with Pessy, who provides trainings for therapists and books for therapists, their publishing company as well. And I'm actually writing a book that's geared towards therapists, and it is a book teaching them how to work with folks that have experienced religious trauma. That book, though, that you're talking about is pretty much written, and it was going to go out, but they wanted to switch gears because they felt like this was something that was really lacking in the field of therapy right now, was training around religious trauma.
Okay. So even though it's pretty much almost done, what inspired you to write that particular one, to Her Own Terms?
I was inspired to write it because I felt like women oftentimes don't have a voice when it comes to sex and their own sexuality. And I've seen this through clients, through friends, through my own life experiences. So what this is not about proclaiming that there's a certain way to be empowered sexually. It's about being authentic and whatever that means for you. So if you are a woman who enjoys sex with multiple people and you want to participate in non-monogamy, then you should be empowered to do so. If you're a woman who believes in monogamy, you should be empowered to do so. If you're a woman who doesn't want to have sex at all, you should be empowered to do so. So empowerment isn't about a prescription as much as it's about being authentic and being able to be yourself and share that with your partner or partners.
Okay. Okay. So can you share a glimpse into your writing process? Like, how do you go about writing something? Is it just, you know, something goes on in life and then you say, you know what, I have something to say, and then you just kind of start crafting the way you want it to be seen? Or how does your process go about you putting together?
That's a really great question. I think the first thing that happens is I really see the need, and sometimes that can take a while, right? So, female sexual empowerment is a need that I've seen since I was a teenager, but I didn't really understand it, fully. So as the years go by and I'm trained and I'm working with clients and I'm speaking to friends and family, I'm just seeing this narrative over and over again where it seems like women are not empowered. I'm seeing it in culture, I'm seeing it in society, I'm seeing it in the news, right? So then the next step is really like doing the research. What's already been done? What are people talking about? What kind of statistics are out there? And then writing to the community about these, and as a therapist writing from the perspective of what can you do about it, right? As an individual. So it's I would say writing on topics like this is lifelong passions.
Mm, okay. All right. So how does leadership coaching help mental health professionals improve their practice?
So basically, coaching with me or consulting with me is about these specific areas that we're talking about today. So if a mental health therapist, when we first get out of school to be a therapist, we're interns and we have supervisors that we work with. But once that time is over and we're fully licensed, oftentimes we don't have people that we consult with or can consult with, right? So my goal is to be there for those folks that are fully licensed, and even those folks that are not fully licensed, to help them better understand the queer community, to understand polyamory, to understand intersection of religion and sexuality. Going to someone who's so specializing in these things, I make myself accessible to folks who may be working with folks in those communities.
Okay. So what are some common areas for quality improvement in mental health care?
Alex, you are sitting down, right? I have plenty to say on this topic. Honestly, I could go on all day. I think that one of the largest issues that we have in mental health care is the fact that it's dictated so much by insurance, and insurance is not working with the people. It's just not. So, like at my practice, we don't take insurance, we offer sliding scale, but even in those terms, sometimes it's difficult for people to afford. So, I think that affordability is a big problem, insurance dictating if and when you can see therapists and who you can see, the amount of therapists that there are, there's just not enough therapists. It's very difficult to find a therapist. People that actually specialize in the issues and the concerns that you want to work with or understanding the communities that you're a part of. We need more people in mental health care that are queer, that are BIPOC, that are part of marginalized communities to be out here and be therapists. This needs to be as diverse a field as possible. And we have to work on the stigmatizing. Not everyone has a mental health diagnosis. And unfortunately, when you use insurance, you're required to give a diagnosis right away. And I think that that is extraordinarily unfair because you're giving someone a label. And I'm not saying that some people may not benefit from that label, but not everybody who seeks mental health care has a diagnosis.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that. So how are you able to integrate advocacy work into your consulting work?
It's all together. It's just who I am.
Gotcha.
So, like everything I do, like from the AMR therapy practice, the populations that we serve, the value systems of all the therapists that work at AMR, consulting is about advocating for communities that are underserved and teaching therapists how to work with underserved communities that I specialize in or I'm a part of. So it's for me, mental health care is advocacy. Now, it may not be that way for every mental health provider, but the kind of degree that I have and the kind of work that I've done throughout my life is always about advocacy and, helping break down barriers and, being there for people to be able to use their voice.
Right. So along those lines, what has been the most fulfilling aspect of coaching leaders in in the mental health field?
When a person understands something that they didn't understand before, or when they have new tools to work with clients. One of my favorite things to hear someone say is, "Oh, I didn't think about that before." Or, "Oh, I had no idea." Or, like, "This is really helpful," or "This tool that you and I discussed really worked. The client understood this better," or "I understand this better." The most rewarding thing is the world is to watch people grow.
Yeah. Um yeah, for sure. I mean, watching them growth is definitely very important. I mean, you're seeing from where somebody is versus where they came from. It's inspiring as well. So
Absolutely. Absolutely.
um, let's go with this. So, okay. So let's go to some of your personal insights and some of your future goals before we wrap things. So how do you balance your professional work with your personal?
Next question, please. No. You know what, Alex? Honestly, I would say that is the most challenging thing of all.
Yeah,
That is definitely the most challenging thing.
yeah. I can only imagine. I was just trying to see what kind of tips I can learn because I'm a business owner too, so I know how it goes when you're busy. It's like personal life. What is that?
No, I know. So yeah, I would say that's my biggest challenge is the balance. But I do my best to try to give myself at least a half a day a week where I don't work. I don't look at my email, but it's hard. We're living in a time in a society where it's just always there, and so you could just be out having dinner, and you look at your email, and you're next thing you know, you're doing work, over your dinner. So it's trying to really be conscious and set aside some time every week where I'm just like, I'm not going to work. I'm not working. I'm not thinking about work. But it's not easy.
Oh no, not at all, not at all. I still struggle with it myself.
Yeah, I think a lot of us do, right?
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to be able to be there for your clients when they need you, and then any new potential clients, you definitely want to get to them fast because you don't want them to, move on to the next person, and it's like, oh, man, I could have helped this person, or I could have did this, I could have did that.
Absolutely. And knowing what it takes to receive the care, I want people to know that we're there,
Hmm.
like right away. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So it's like we're never leaving anybody hanging. And that's just from personal experience too. It's different times in life where I've reached out for therapy. Sometimes the therapist doesn't get back to you and it's like, "Oh, I can see you in 2 months." Like, this is mental health. Like, we don't have 2 months or no response. This needs to happen within a 24-hour period and set up to see someone, within the week. And that's the way that I operate. But it's difficult to operate that way and also have, a personal life, I guess, as well.
Yeah, actually, I can only imagine being in your field. I mean, having to because you're working with people's mental health, so it has to be quick because you never know what people's thinking on their mind. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
so
So you
that
want me to be there.
right, right. Like with that, I would have to. If I did that, I would probably have to have an assistant. Like my assistant would have to be answering the calls and the emails, and then like, hey, if this person needs to talk to me, put them on my calendar so that way we can get on a Zoom call quickly, and then and I'll just handle the meetings, but you handle all setting up the meetings. So
And that is what AMR does. We do have that because and but it's funny because the people that do the work, these are people, I mean, their jobs, they have jobs with AMR, but these are friends These are peers. These are people I went to school with. We're all on the same mission of accessible, affordable care. So it's like everyone will make less because we're advocating for more care. So it's like there's a lot of blessings in there for this business too. That there are people that are just as passionate, if not more passionate than I am about that kind of care. So we are on it. We are on it.
And that's good. That's a blessing itself. The work that you're doing, and you don't see many people. I don't think I've ever seen anybody that's doing everything that you're doing. You know, but it's definitely needed. It's definitely needed for sure.
Thank you. Thank you. And the team is amazing. If you check out the website, the AMR therapy website, the team is awesome. Just a diverse group of really cool people.
Okay. Yeah, I had to check it out because I don't think I've seen that before. I don't think.
You probably saw my personal website, but the AMR is like the team of us.
Yeah, I think it was your personal website. Yeah. Okay, so a few more questions before we wrap it up.
Sure.
So what's next for you in terms of projects or initiatives?
So I'm really working on this religious trauma book for the therapist. I have to give it to the publisher by July. So that is my main focus at the moment. And then I imagine that I will do some trainings and touring around the book, and I'll do more podcasting around on the book and just keep everything going as it's going now with AMR therapy and the consulting and the training. But I don't know if I should add anything more to my plate.
No.
Yeah, I think my plate is pretty full at this. I got a little appetizer plate along with my like big plate, so I'm gonna keep it steady.
Yeah, you got a full course meal
Yeah,
already.
I do.
Yeah. No, I understand that. So last thing. So how can listeners connect with you or support your work?
If they're interested in hooking up with one of our therapists or checking out our therapists, they can go to amrtherapy.com. And that's a great place to go for services. For mental health providers who are looking for more consulting or support, they can check out my website, which is annrusso.org. Or just hit me up, email ann@amrtherapy.com.
Okay. Perfect. So I would like to take this time to tell you that I appreciate you coming on the show today, talking about all the great, amazing things that you're doing. I hope you know many success for all the years to come.
Thank you.
Everybody that's watching, I hope you all go and you support Ann and everything she's doing. You know, if you know somebody or if you're interested in working with her, please reach out to her. Don't hesitate. And just, hey, I mean, she's doing great work, and you know, she needs everybody's support to continue to be able to continue doing great work.
Thank you, Alex.
So you all go support her in any way possible.
Thank you. Thank you. That's real because we do need the support in order to keep up the mission.
Oh yeah,
So thank you.
for sure. So everybody that's watching, like I said, you guys go support. But you all have just watched another episode of All in All with Alex, and we'll see you guys on the next episode. Peace.